Gbadebo-Smith is Director of the General at the Nigerian Institute for Social and Economic Research. He's also trained as a surgeon and has spent a number of years as a politician in Nigeria. Thank you. An enormous honor to have you here today with us. When Folarin is talking with us today about knowledge as unevenly distributed as money and how much this is not sustainable. You co-authored with Lene the ABCDEFGH paper, and will speak with us about the thoughts behind it and the need for global access to knowledge. So please, looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. By the way, I have recently retired as the Director General for the Institute of Social and Economic Research. I'm retired, but not tired. This has been a strange journey for me. You know, we started, I met Lene by pure accident at a conference in Wales, and it's been a fascinating journey. Just reading her publications, her books, and her thoughts. You know, I finally came to understand what a futurist does. I thought they were science fiction characters before this. So the question on the table is dispersion of knowledge. This session takes off from my earlier discussion on rethinking education. Some of this, I'm sure Lene will, in time, put out videos so that those who missed it can see how this flows. I must start this segment on global dispersion with even more questions than I had in the first session. What is the imperative? I asked myself the question, what is the imperative for global dispersion of knowledge? What is the urgency, and why now? There are some new realities which humanity faces. Globalization is a fairly old one now. In fact, people are talking of reshoring, and we're going back to the days when walls were being thrown up between countries, trade, and so on. But I think those walls are temporary, and the fright that the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic gave us is fast fading. So people are going to go back to their old habits, bad habits, if you ask me, but they'll go back to their old habits anyway. We're faced with climate change, global migration flows, technology advances, and I'm talking about AI. And I was watching a program yesterday when somebody said, I am manipulating my first quantum bits. Now, people may not understand what that means, but between AI and quantum computing, humanity will have to really rethink its role in the cosmos. With these changes come new complexities, which humankind has to respond to. And these responses will not be local. They will not be left in the hands of a few tech giants, or everybody on Earth will have to participate to some extent or the other. In Africa, we are taking on the free movement of goods and people so we can realize the goals set by the AfCFTA, that's the Africa Free Trade Zone, and hopefully ignite development. In this new universe, citizens are global, or at least the boundaries and borders that existed before will fast crumble. The knowledge base that these global citizens must have will be different from what exists now. A migrant from Nigeria, Somalia, Iraq, going to Europe will have to carry along with him a certain body of knowledge if he is to survive in those societies. And those societies are traveling at light speed, away from convention, from the old technologies towards the new technologies. The knowledge base will definitely be very different. The world is also getting more complex. Think about the butterfly effect. War in the Middle East drives inflation in Nigeria. You know, the connections are not obvious, but definitely they are there, taking place through various vectors and agents. But first, let me take a stab at knowledge. For the purposes of this discussion, I recognize three knowledge archetypes. Survival knowledge, which is stuff that is community-based and which humans, individuals, communities need to survive. That is farming techniques, known medicine, botany, Ubuntu, etc. Then there's freedom knowledge, stuff that frees the mind, psychology, the arts, morality, ethics, Ubuntu again, and finally, exploratory knowledge. Mark you, these are terms that are peculiar to me. Exploratory knowledge encompasses those skills that encourage inquiry into the unknown. These same skills and attitudes allow us as a species to, in quote, master our environment. I'm talking about mathematics, thought experimentation, logic, critical thinking, and unknown sciences. There are sciences that are coming that currently do not exist. These fields overlap with current culture, and culture is closely woven into the way we learn and where and how knowledge is transmitted and diffused. Transmitting and diffusing each type of knowledge calls for a different approach, but that's a discussion for another day. Then we come to the competition of nations. Trade, the trade not aid argument compels a different infrastructure. The question that was asked at the beginning of the session, which is why are we not cooperating, is reflective of a binary zero-sum type of thinking. Your gain is my loss. And in this world, it is difficult to share knowledge because knowledge is power, is power is money, and money is the end game for the current capitalist system. But we in the coming age, the age of nanotechnology, quantum computing, knowledge is likely to have the currency of its own. And sharing this knowledge will involve moving to a more cooperative arrangement. You can understand supply chains, economic complexity, patents, regulations on trade. It's all about knowledge. Knowledge is now understood, for instance, to be the infrastructure of trade. The particular type of knowledge that will allow Africa's global citizens to participate fully in the bank economy is unfortunately not widespread, which informs the question of why and how we go about disseminating knowledge. One thing is for sure, and that is that it will not be possible to navigate the new complexities based on rote knowledge or the old systems of learning. Producing advanced goods that will allow Africa to engage with the global economy will mean going to a different model. In the old days, you could go from agriculture to industry, manufacturing, and low-cost manufacturing, and eventually you'd end up where China has ended up. Well, that story is old now. It's not going to happen for Africa. We have missed that train. We are faced with a world where manufacturing is already sort of agreed between China and South America. Basically, the markets will sort that out. You can imagine then that knowledge is dispersion and absorption becomes an existential matter for Africa, indeed the global South. COVID-19 very, very elegantly proved that case. Africa dodged that bullet purely by chance. It was not the goodwill, it was not the power of knowledge. We couldn't develop our own vaccines, and yet we are part of the global travel world. That means that we cannot take a position where some people are ignored or some peoples are ignored and some other people enjoy the benefits of knowledge or the knowledge economy. It will come back to bite everybody. So what is the issue with dispersion? There are headwinds. There are forces that resist new knowledge, new methods of dispersion, new access. The most intense of which are, I think, establishment think. People are just wedded to orthodoxy. They're not willing to move. They've been teaching the same way for over 200, 300 years. And, as far as colonial transmission was concerned, this is the end of knowledge. You have intellectual property rules that favor, maybe in the new economy, just 5 companies. Those companies that control algorithms, those companies that control the internet, the infrastructure of knowledge, everybody will be subject to their wishes. Then you have culture and religion as headwinds. These things, I think these last two shackle the global South probably more than anything else. Most African cultures are not progress prone. If you think of progress prone and progress resistant cultures, the cultures here are not progress prone. There's a reverence for the past, a certain rigidity and tendency towards conformity. Religion, as it's practiced in Africa and most of the global South, only intensifies poverty. If you think about the mental models that allow religions to thrive, you find that religious conditioning discourages critical thinking and seeks to restrain the spirit of inquiry, which is the very thing we are trying to transmit, which is the very thing that will allow, or the very things that will allow Africa to survive. Intellectual property rights are by nature exclusionary, for latecomers.